It is the first week of August in the year 2024. And I'm wondering, what boat nerd, freighter freak, or just passionate ship watcher hasn't dreamed about living in a place where the vessels sail right through your backyard? Well, we're going to meet a person who does that for real. Well, at least during the Great Lakes shipping season. All right, we're here on a fine summer day on the St. Mary's River with Roger LeLievre, who is the guy that does
Know Your Ships.
And we're going to talk about Know Your Ships, the book that all boat buffs, anybody who visits the Soo or looks around and watches Great Lakes freighters for any reason needs to have Know Your Ships, because it gives all the details about everything, the salties, the lake boats, the history, the scrappings, everything. It's all in there, and it's all in living color. So, Roger, let's start with, first of all, this beautiful place on the river. Just give us a brief rundown on how you came about to have this to live here.
Well, it's an interesting story. In 1952, my grandfather's mother-in-law passed away and left them $2,000. And it was either buy a new Studebaker or buy this piece of property on the river. So very fortunately for me, he bought the property. And it's been in my family ever since. I grew up here every summer with my grandparents. There aren't a lot of people that can say they can look out the same window they looked out of when they were a baby, but I can do that. I'm very fortunate to have this summer home, which is actually, I stay here till the boats lay up. So me and the boats lay up about the same time. And I go back to my Ann Arbor home for the winter. I lived in Ann Arbor for 40 years, and I worked at the Ann Arbor News.
Okay, very good.
So that was my day job back
when,
a while
right?
back, right?
Yeah, excellent. And the view is, as when I rolled up here, the Tregurtha was going by, and it was just amazing. You know, this footer is just sailing right by, almost in your well, actually in your backyard.
It is, and I've got my pontoon boat sitting out there, and if I see a vessel coming I need a picture of, I just hop right in and go on out.
Very good.
It's very convenient. I've been doing this since I was about 10 years old. We had a small 12-foot aluminum boat with a 3-horsepower motor on the back, and one day my grandfather said, if you can take this up there to that dock and back by yourself, you can go out on your own. So I'm out in the channel at about 14 years old in this tiny boat that if you wanted to go in reverse, you had to spin the motor around the other way. And somehow I managed to survive all that.
Very good. So now let's talk about Know Your Ships, which boat nerds commonly call KYS, but we're going to call it Know Your Ships.
Okay.
And or you can call it KYS if you want, because you are the publisher and editor right now. But tell me how your relationship with Know Your Ships began.
Okay. Know Your Ships was founded in 1959 here in Sault Ste. Marie by a guy named Thomas Manse. And he was a machinist at the Edison Soo at that time hydroelectric power plant on the waterfront. And he had a view right out of his window of the boats going by. And around 1958, he set a goal for himself to take a picture of every boat, because he knew that when the seaway opened that things would drastically change, and they did for ships. But he got it in his head an idea to come up with a small booklet for tourists and people who lived along the water that would give them the basic information about all the freighters. So it was originally supposed to be called Know Your Ships That Pass Our Shores. Thankfully, it didn't do that because that's just too long.
Yeah.
So he founded this Know Your Ships in 1959. It was 44 pages and staple bound. And it was sold by teenagers stationed at the gates to where the tourists came into the locks, and they had those carpenter aprons with the pockets, and they had books and money in there, and the kids just loved selling Know Your Ships because they made a ton of money. When the shopkeepers along Portage Avenue saw the sales, then they wanted the books in the store. So that's kind of how it started. It was meant to be just a ship watchers thing. With some very basic information about the boats. And it grew from there from 1959 1979 was the last one that was staple bound. Then it got bigger, so it became perfect bound with the name on the spine. Color pictures came in around about that time too. So now we're up to 200 pages and 65 years in 2024.
Wow.
I met Tom Manse because I had an interest in the boats already from my grandfather and being here on this property. My grandfather ran the crane that put the coal on the boats for fuel at Kemp's Coal Dock in the Sioux. And before that, he did the same thing with his father on Lime Island down in the lower St. Mary's River. And my mother and her siblings were all raised on Lime Island. My grandmother was the one-room schoolhouse teacher. When the kids got old enough to go to high school, they moved to the Sioux. And Gramp got a job at the Kemp's Coal Dock. So he's got this background. He's taken me out on the boat. I'm interested in boats. Father's Day's coming along. I forget which year. And my mother, Audrey LeLiever, and I were talking about what we should get Gramp for Father's Day. And somehow we hit on the idea we should get him some boat pictures of the boats that came into the dock there.
Yeah.
And she knew this guy in Sault Ste. Marie that sold boat pictures, so she called him up. And we went over to his house one evening and sat around the kitchen table, and it was Tom Manse, and he brought out all these boxes of photos for us to go through. And we selected 3. I remember the John Erickson was one of them, the Yankenuck was one of them. I forgot, the Ariel Ryerson was the 3rd one. And but I couldn't really get enough of those pictures. I mean, Tom just knew that I was interested because I was just like more and more. So he started giving me his damaged photos from his basement. He had a darkroom in the basement, and made his own pictures. And he started giving me the damaged photos, and then he showed me how to make pictures in the darkroom myself.
Wow.
Which it was this little. It used to be the coal bin, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, little tiny darkroom with an enlarger and a contact printmaker. Pretty soon I'm on the phone. Mr. Manse, can I come over tonight and make pictures? I'm sure I was kind of a pass, but time went along. I was in junior high school, 1968. The Sioux got the Valley Camp Museum ship. And Tom hired me, but even before they got the ship here, to go down on the carbide dock and put the American flag and the Republic Steel flag and the Wilson Marine flag on the mast they'd put up there. So I'd put them in the basket of my bicycle and pedal down. And in the morning, put them up, and at night, I'd take them in. So that was my first job. I was probably 14. The ship did come in, and then I got hired to be tour guide on it. Now, I was so young, my mother had to get a work permit for me and sign off on the whole deal. But I spent my childhood hanging around the Valley Camp, giving tours, hanging around Tom Manse, kind of learning the ropes about Know Your Ships. And eventually he published one of my pictures, which, was really exciting for me at this time.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, and that's why today I'm very aware of getting pictures in the book by the young photographers and the kids, because I know what a deal it is.
I first had a picture that was published in the Telescope, and it was a grayscale of, I think, the Wolverine or something like that, and I just sent it in. I was in college at the time, and I had never written anything or done anything like that, but I sent in this photo, and they used it. And when I got my copy of the Telescope, it was just before we had our student newspaper banquet, and I got my Telescope, and there it was. And so we had our student newspaper banquet, and I was like, "Look, everybody! I got my picture in the magazine." Yes,
I understand that.
Huge thrill for a boat nerd.
Yes. So I got into high school.
Yeah.
Sioux High School here in Sault Ste. Marie. I was class of 1973, and when I was a freshman, I learned how to take pictures. The yearbook would send me to the football games, and I had one of those speed graphic, those big cameras with the bellows out front.
Yeah.
And the film packs you had to change, and the massive strobe light that I would carry this huge battery around on my shoulder. I still walk crooked, I tell you. And then I'd get that film, and I'd walk down in the afternoon to Materna Photo Studio downtown, and he would develop the film. Materna is a very famous name here in the Sioux. He kind of followed in the footsteps of A.E. Young and those early guys documenting the history of the Sioux and of the freighters.
Yeah.
And I remember going up those stairs to that second floor, and the guy would have a rubber apron on, and there'd be the trays that smelled of the chemicals. It was developer and stop bath and fixer. what an experience that was, looking back. So all through high school, I was the yearbook nerd. I was the photographer. I had a great darkroom. And also through college, I was the student photographer at Central Michigan in the sports information department.
There you go.
So when I was in high school, I was already freelancing for the local newspaper and taking pictures for them about what was going on at Sioux High, the proms and the kings and queens and stuff. And then I went to, that summer, I kind of worked for them a bit, but then something big happened.
What's that?
I ran away to sea.
Oh, you went right to sea.
So my connection with Tom Manse, Tom knew the people at the Marine Division at Ford Motor Company, their fleet of ships. And I wanted to check out if I wanted to really actually be a sailor. That was one of the things I thought I could do. So he got me on a boat. So 2 weeks after I graduated from high school, my mother took me over to the Soo Locks in the evening, and I got on the upbound Ernest R. Breach in one of the third or the fourth lock about 11:30, and so began my summer-long sailing career.
Wow.
I was a passenger porter, low man on the totem pole, cabin boy, and the Breach carried 8 passengers as guests of Ford Motor Company. They were executives, they were customers, people they wanted to impress, and they traveled in style. There was 4 staterooms underneath the pilot house, and the passengers even had their own dining room and galley up forward, and they had their own cook, and they had their own porter, me.
You.
So I would get all their luggage up from the aft end of the ship all the way up to the front. I'd make their beds, clean their tubs every morning, empty the overflowing ashtrays. Make sure that the copious bar that they brought with them, all the liquor was all neatened up, and there was plenty of ice. Got to have plenty of ice. And I did the dishes, and I did all that kind of stuff for the summer of 1973. Took a lot of boat pictures. I found some of my letters to my mother. It's like, miss you, Mom, love you, send more film. So I took a lot of very good pictures. So I would have gone back the next year, but by that time I pretty much decided that really wasn't for me, and I was going to go into journalism. And the editor of the Sault Ste. Marie paper, Herb Levine was his name, typical, padded shoulder, gray suit, silver-haired guy, comes over and puts his fatherly arm around me and says, Roger, I got a deal for you. If you promise not to go back on the boats next year, I will give you a job, all the work you want, all through college, summers, breaks, everything. And if you want to do an internship, you can do that here too. I couldn't refuse. Right. So I bid adieu to my sailing career. Went over to the locks the next summer in the MacArthur Lock, and there's the Breach. The cook spies me up there on the platform. The steward, actually, chief steward. And he says, what the hell are you doing over there? You ain't making no money. And I'm like, well, he's got me. He's got a point. I'm really not making any money, but I'm getting some pretty good experience. So that was that about that. But I did go on. I graduated from Central Michigan and took a job at the Ann Arbor News, which wound up staying there for 30 years until 2008 when the parent corporation, Newhouse Newspapers, closed us down in favor of an online newspaper.
Oh, gosh.
I went to work for them as a freelance writer doing exactly what I used to do, arts and entertainment writing and editing, by the way, for 3 years. Then they closed that down, and I took the hint. I was just like, all right, I'm out. So I went to work for Harbor House Publishers in Boyne City. They published Seaway Review. Basically it was freelance. I did work for them. I did work on their Greenwoods Guide. And there was an issue with I didn't want to move to Boyne City, so there was an issue with that. So I stopped doing that. And I just decided to devote 100% of my time to anything that has to do with Know Your Ships.
Very good.
And yeah.
Now, I never got to meet Mr. Manse, but I spoke to him on the phone. He tried to get me to come over to his business, and he wanted to publish my books.
Yep.
And I thought about it, and I kind of did one of those things. Well, Avery Color Studios gave me my break. They're my my publisher.
Sure.
And they've always been really good to me. And thank you, but no thank you. And so that's that was my little touch with Mr. Manse, but he was very nice about it.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Nice guy.
Tom was a really great guy in many ways. He was a very imposing presence, over 6 foot tall. He was broad-shouldered. He was a big guy, blustery, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And you know, profanity here, profanity there, Italian profanity here and there. You know, but he sure gave me a chance and mentored me and gave me a great gift when he passed away by giving me Know Your Ships. And I never knew Tom Manse to say no to any kid who wanted to work. If you wanted to work, he would give you a try. You can't, 'cause how many people can you say that about?
Very few, very few.
And he did an amazing thing here, establishing the Valley Camp Marine Museum against all the people that would say it won't work.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea. Well, here we are, what, 50-some years later?
Later.
It's doing great. Tom Manse begged, bartered, borrowed so much to get that thing going. So he had an arrangement with the U.S. Steel Fleet at the time because they had the supply office in the Sioux.
Yeah.
He bummed paint off those boats. He bummed, oh my God, all kinds of things would come to us through that supply operation. The Coast Guard was right next door. He was able to get a lot of stuff from the Coast Guard and enlist their help. You know, he was a schmoozer. He was a talker.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he loved to fill his trunk of his. I remember his 1967 Plymouth Fury, and we'd go places like the Walden Canal or what have you to sell books. He'd pack his car full of books. He loved going on sales trips like that.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. And now, you told me personally that you said you literally got Know Your Ships on Thomas Manse's deathbed.
Pretty much. He passed away in, I want to say, no, I know for sure, right about the 1st of April in 1994. The book had just come off the press. He had cancer, but he thought he was going to beat it.
Yeah.
And he went ahead, he ordered the book, I don't even believe he lived to see it printed. But he had set things up before he passed away in a legal document that gave me the majority of shares in Marine Publishing Company Incorporated. My mom had some shares. His 2 daughters had some shares. So that's how we set it up. And we just set to work. I mean, if we hadn't set to work, the estate would have been stuck with 8,000 books that had just come off the press.
Oh my goodness!
So we took it over, and my mom and I, my mom really helped. Her name was Audrey. She was city clerk of Sault Ste. Marie, and in the early days, she did all my bookkeeping.
Oh, good.
Which was a blessing because that is not my forte.
Yeah, me neither.
So she helped a lot behind the scenes. So that's when I took over, and I was the first person to put it on computer. Tom used a yellow legal pad with arrows and circles, and it was a nightmare. So I put it on the computer. I started including the former names. I tried to put more information in. I cleaned up some of the information that was there.
Yeah.
Just went on from there.
Okay, now, what do you see as the future for Know Your Ships as of right now? I mean, I see you did some expansion the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that, and then tell us where you think you're going with it.
Well, 2 years ago, we did expand. We started a magazine that comes out in the middle of the summer called Know Your Ships Extra. Mm-hmm. The thought was, now you don't have to wait another whole year to get some Know Your Ships goodness.
Yeah.
You can get a magazine like this full of stories about ships and sailors and boat pictures, old and current, taken by our fans, by the way. They're fantastic photos. Stories about the industry, we're branching out into that. And I can do that because I have added some younger people. Sam Hankinson is one of them. Nick Stenstrup is another. And they understand some things about the computer and digital marketing that I don't. They're bringing that skill to the table. And Sam is a doggone fine writer. And he has a network of younger guys and women that are interested in the boats and writing about them. And they've been writing for the Extra. And they're doing, I'm so impressed with, so happy with the work they're doing. I can't believe, I'm so lucky that there is this whole group of I call them kids, because I'm 70 and everybody under 40 is a kid, like the kids, to do this kind of stuff. They have the passion, and they have the understanding of tradition and legacy and the importance of telling people stories. Everybody has a story, and they're usually willing to talk about it if you ask.
Yeah, just like you right now.
Absolutely. People don't last forever, and I want to get some of these stories down before it's too late. I had the privilege this year for the magazine of interviewing Captain John Wellington here in the Sioux, who's a legendary tugboat captain. He's the guy. I mean, he was referred to as the Yogi Berra of tugboating by the president of the Lake Carriers Association. So I interviewed John Wellington. He's 93. I love doing that kind of work. So that's the kind of thing that we're headed for, and we have the younger people to do it. Now, I got Know Your Ships for free from Tom Manse. I'm passing Marine Publishing Company Know Your Ships on to Sam and Nick, free of charge, to continue the legacy. That's what's important to me. Money is not important.
Yeah.
It's continuing the legacy of the book into the future.
It's great.
So, I hope there's a great future. I had no idea when I got the book from Tom what I was going to do, if I could do it. I figured it out. And hey, these kids have a leg up because they're helping me. Yeah. And they're getting to learn the business. And they'll take it wherever they take it. And I'm sure it'll be great.
Yep.
But I'm not worried about it anymore.
The last thing is, those back copies of Know Your Ships among boat nerds, and I think it was you and Neil that coined the term boat nerd.
Well, no, Neil did that. That was all Neil. Neil Schulteis. That was all him.
Well, among boat nerds, those have become collector's items.
Oh, yes.
They're big-time collector's items.
On eBay, they can go for a couple $100. Those early ones, the early 1960s, up to about 1975, and then they're more easily available.
Yeah. So I treasure mine because I have one that is folded in half, and it's always got that permanent fold there. That's where I had it stuck in my back pocket while I was running around the Sioux chasing boats. Yep. So there's memories in there.
Sure. And I have some of my early ones where if I saw a boat, I made a check mark and did all that kind of stuff. But I see kids, a lot of young kids, like really young kids. I met some of them here recently. I can't believe how many young kids are interested in this. Boys and girls. Yeah. How does it happen? I'm glad it happens, but how does it happen?
I don't know, but I'm glad to get the readers, and so are you, right?
I absolutely am.
And we're talking to them right now because those are the people that largely sign on to the internet to see this kind of stuff.
Yep, and my goal, and also Sam and Nick's goal, is to bring as many younger people into the boat watching fold as possible. We see a lot of these kids, and there is an actually organized group of younger kids on Facebook that Sam kind of coordinates, trying to bring them out and into the scene, so to speak, and teach them the ropes and show them what a great hobby it is. We talk to their parents about careers at the Maritime Academy or on the boats. A number of those kids actually have gone on to work in the industry, which I'm super proud of them. But it's the young people. Yeah. If you don't get the young people, you lose a hobby after a while.
That's absolutely correct. Well, it was great to be here with you in your backyard, and
well, it's the front yard to me.
Okay, yeah.
The road is the backyard.
Okay, we'll say it that way. And with the beautiful blue of the St. Mary's River out there on a wonderful summer day, and I sit here and I'm thinking to myself, it won't be too long and there'll be that much snow out here. So
well, yeah, 2 years ago. Not last year, it was no snow. 2 years ago, I was up here for Christmas. We got 4 feet of snow in 3 days over Christmas.
Holy
Where you're sitting was this huge overhang drift from the roof. We kept building and building and building. So, yeah, it does happen. Yeah. But you know what? I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thanks for sitting with us today.
Thank you,
Appreciate it, Roger. And Roger and I go way back, and it's good to be here with you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.